This tutorial will cover the process for running scan sessions using the tablet. It will begin with a brief review of the scan session setup process from Tutorial 2, setting up your tablet. Then we will run a scan session showing the integration between the StockMate tablet app and RFID readers and weigh scales. Commence your session by running the sync process on the tablet. This ensures you have access to all the latest animal and paddock details, as well as session templates on your tablet. Scan sessions are used when scanning individual animals for arrivals, handling, exits, and deads. You can either run your scan session from a previously created scan session template or create a new session. Select New Scan Session. Here you can nominate the property and the session type and choose whether or not you will create a session from a template. If you use a template, it will create a copy of the template with a new session number and today's date, which will be pre-populated with your previously specified parameters. You can update the session name and then review the defaults and presets you have set up and make changes as required. For the purposes of this tutorial, we'll create a new session, as this covers all of the processes required for both options. In the Session Setup screen, select the required session type and subtype, and name your session. Select the broad parameters to include in the session by tapping the relevant checkbox. To further modify included fields, select Edit. You can tap the arrows to expand or contract the form detail. Tick or untick individual fields by tapping them. As in the web session setup, you can specify defaults and preset lists. This session is an arrival session for a small number of Brahman and Hereford heifers, privately purchased. As such, we can make our presets and defaults fairly specific. If, however, you were processing animals from a different number of mobs with diverse attributes, you may not choose to select defaults and would include more options in your preset lists. If you are setting up an arrival session for new animals, you can use StockMate to automatically generate and apply visual tags. Under the Arrival Induction tab, select Auto Increment Ear Tag. Input a prefix if required and the starting number, and StockMate will automatically generate and apply these throughout the scan session. When you've finished filling in the animal details, select the back arrow in the top left corner of the screen. Select Add to add a treatment item which will be applied to animals within the session. Note that if Auto Apply is ticked, the item will be applied to all session animals by default, though can be deselected for specific animals within the scan session. If left unticked, the treatment item will appear in the scan session, but will only be applied if you select it specifically during the session. Set up the number of gates you will require in the session for moving cattle and specify which gate each animal needs to go to be sorted into specific paddocks. Select Add to set up a gate, input the relevant details and press the back button to retain. I might want animals to be drafted between 3 different paddocks depending on their attributes, so I repeat the process 3 times to set up the required number of gates. When setting up your draft rules, remember that if an animal meets the criteria for more than one draft rule, the animal will be assigned to the gate for the first sequence rule for which it qualifies. If sorting based on weight, always put larger weights first in the draft rules. Also, remember to set up an else rule for any animals which don't meet the drafting criteria. Ensure your RFID reader and any other required hardware, such as weigh scales, are turned on and select Edit to set up connections between your tablet and the hardware. If you are likely to use this session setup again, don't forget to save this as a template. Then you can start scanning. The first animal to be scanned is a Brahman heifer, around 200 days old. After scanning her EID tag, you can see the EID tag number in the top left corner. Below this, a visual tag has been automatically generated based on the settings we nominated in the session setup. Any warning messages or alerts will appear in red text below the tag numbers. Note that the background colour of the screen is green. This indicates that this animal has not yet been scanned in this session. If the animal has been scanned in this session already, it will display as blue. If the background is red, this flags that there is an issue with the scan. An example of this would be if an animal was scanned in a handling session without having had an earlier arrival session. The weight captured by the weigh scale reader has also been imported into the tablet data. Depending on whether or not your scale head is set to auto-capture weight, you may need to tap Capture to accept the weight appearing on the weigh scale reading. If your scales are set up to auto-capture weight, this step will be unnecessary. The mob is set to 2016 Brahman heifers by default, which is appropriate, so we can leave this. In this instance, we can see that the pre-selected arrival drench has been automatically applied. We won't add any further treatments. When we set up the draft rules in the session, we wanted Brahman heifers drafted into Gate 1 to go to main paddock. We can see under Destination that this animal has been drafted to Gate 1. If, for any reason, you need to draft to a different gate and paddock, you can override the draft rules here by selecting another destination. When you're happy that the information is correct, select Save and Close, and you're ready to scan the next animal. Our next animal is a Hereford heifer. As a lot of our defaults were set up for the Brahman heifers, we'll have to change the mob and breed. When we look under Destination, we can see that this heifer has been correctly drafted to Gate 2, the upper paddock. We can save and close, ready for the next animal. Sometimes we may notice something about an animal that we need to note down to action later. StockMate has the capability to flag an animal within the scan session and add a note and photo if required. Let us say, for example, that the next heifer being scanned has blight. We might want to apply orbanin and make a note to follow this up in a week. We can make a note of the orbanin application in the treatment area. I had set up the session to include a vitamin treatment, so it has brought this up as a possibility. Because it's not showing orbanin as an option, I'll select Add Treatment. I can then select orbanin from my drop-down menu, specify the batch and dose, and select Apply. At the top of the screen, I can tap the flag icon to show up in any listing which includes this animal. I can then add a brief note. As a reference point, I'll take a photo of the animal now so I can monitor improvement. When I select Add Photo, I'm able to use the tablet to take a photo which will be linked to the animal record. If you've already taken a photo, you can access your Photos folder. Otherwise, you can go to the camera and take a photo directly. When you're happy with the photo, select Done, then Save and Close. We can see back in the list of animals that this particular heifer has now been flagged. If you're handling stock without scanning them individually, you can run a bulk session on the tablet. Select New Bulk Session and choose the session type before selecting Create Session. Specify your session name, then session subtype. The date will default to today's date. If you're retrospectively recording a session, ensure you set the correct handling date. We don't want to draft this mob to another paddock, so we'll deselect the Move parameter. As this is a treatment handling session, we'll add a treatment using the icon in the top right corner. Name the treatment, then select the Add icon. Select the treatment you want to apply, the relevant ailment, then fill in the batch number and dose fields. Save and press the back arrow to close. The same procedures apply for processing bulk exits and bulk deads using the tablet. As on the web interface, we can also view and edit sessions on the tablet. Go to View Edit Sessions and select a property. You may or may not choose to narrow the search by specifying session type. Ensure you have an appropriate date range selected to find the session. Select the session you would like to view or edit. To view and edit specific animal details within the session, scroll down and select Start Scanning. Here you see a list of heads scanned and can tap on any animal to view details. Conversely, I may want to edit the session setup. In this case, say I created a session and scanned the first couple of animals, then realised I hadn't set it up to include detail of an arrival drench. I don't want to individually have to add this for every animal, so I could edit the session setup so the treatment is applied to all animals. Select Add Treatment and input treatment item details and tick Auto Apply. Then select Back and Start Scanning in order to resume the scan session. You can also use this function to retrospectively flag an animal and add a note. Find the animal in the list of animals scanned and tap it to bring up the scan record. There, you can tap Flagged in the top right corner and tap Notes to add detail. You may or may not choose to take and include a photo using the tablet. If you have applied a treatment, as in this case, take a moment to add details of the treatment and batch number. That completes our tutorial on the use of StockMate to conduct scan-based sessions using an Android tablet. In the following tutorial, we'll look at how to manage stock on hand using StockMate's mob-based inventory system.